All right, welcome back. A few announcements before we get started. After this first panel, we're going to go ahead and do another drawing for another Kindle. And for those that are on the feud winning teams, the Viva La Vectors and the Incredibles, make sure you're backstage in about 15 minutes. And again, the breakouts are in the center section of the Daily Dispatch, and I'll go over those before we break for those. Make sure that during lunch you visit the sponsors and exhibitors for one last time, because after that, when we break after the fireside chat with Paul and the administrator, we will be shutting those back doors and we'll be exiting out the side here, so they can break down. We have a really short turnaround to get them broke down before tomorrow morning. So with that, I would like to introduce the next. It's not necessarily a panel, but just a presentation to give everybody kind of an update on what the National Safety Initiative is doing and what it is going to do in the future. And I'd like to welcome the Vice President of Safety and Technical Training for the ATO, Joseph Teixeira, and the Director of Operations for Central Service Area South, Kim Stover.
There we go. It's fine. Good morning, everyone. Hopefully you are as satisfied as I have been with the great conference, and we're sort of coming down to the end of it. And we wanted to give you an idea on what's behind this ATO blueprint and the National Safety Initiative. I'm going to try to put this in context. All the things that we're doing in safety fit into this concept that we collect information through various programs, MORs, EORs, EDSEP, and all of those other things. We put together the best people that we can to assemble that information and do analysis. And then based on what we learn from those analyses, we put teams together to get things fixed. I mean, that's the concept of our SMS. It's the context of everything we do. And this National Safety Initiative is in the same context. We're focusing on a few items so that we can get resolution to them using these principles of collect, find, and fix. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Wanted to talk a little bit about what we did this last summer for the National Safety Initiative as we kicked it off and the various components it included, as well as where we're taking it in the future. I want to kind of reiterate what we talked about this summer. We are so very proud of our air traffic system. And we know we have the very best air traffic controllers and the very safest air traffic control system in the world. I have a little tidbit of factoid I want to share with you. There's a story about if you were born on an airliner in the US in this decade and you never got off that airliner, you would encounter your first fatal accident when you were 2,300 years old, and you would still have a 29% chance of being one of the survivors. So we know our system is safe. It is very safe. And as passengers who fly in the system all the time, we're very proud of that, and we never take it for granted. But part of what the National Safety Initiative about was talking about inside that safe system, what does risk look like? Because we know it still exists all the time. You guys see it, you see it every day. As you analyze your own behavior, you see some of it. As you look at your peers in the system, we see system risk all the time. And that's really what we wanted to address as part of the National Safety Initiative. So the three components were to re-emphasize the NAS safety in our operations and really recommit to a quality assurance and quality control process, which was collaboratively developed to ensure that we are gathering as much data to help us identify risk. Additionally, the third component was to refocus attention to detail as we implement changes or improvements to the NAS through our SMS process. So last summer, many of you were involved in Director and RVP site visits. I tell you, we all enjoyed those very much. It was great to come have those conversations, hear what was going on in the facilities, especially listen to the concerns around safety, and then really continue to focus our efforts towards conversations every day, day in and day out, with the folks that know the best about exactly what's going on inside their facilities. That's the gist of what we continued to ask of you, is to continue to have those conversations. The three areas that we tried to focus on specifically so that it wasn't so overwhelming was weather dissemination, IFR-VFR conflicts, and parachute operations. Now, some of you don't have parachute operations, that's fine. But for those of you that do, I know that you've taken a lot of effort towards reviewing your letters of agreement with your operators, some of the integration between the towers, the trachons and the centers, where those operations overlap boundaries. It makes it difficult to provide the coordination that we need to ensure it's as safe as possible. And I know many of you have taken efforts to do that very well. Some of the other things we did was the webinar initiative. So thank you for your participation. It was a great opportunity to hear from the field, talk about many of the things we spoke of yesterday on the weather panel, the differences in our radar systems, how they work or they don't work together, and then what we need to do as partners with pilots, with other controllers and other facilities, even adjacent centers, the command center, to share that information and to have as much information as we can to make the best decisions we can. We had a frequently asked question document that came out of that, which was great. It allowed us to share information with everybody across the country. And then we're also going forward with best practices from the various facilities and trying to capture those so that no facility has to reinvent the wheel, that you have a library, if you will, of things that you can consider doing at your facility. We're focusing the local safety councils with that information to help them identify issues and then partner locally to identify what they want to do about the things that they do collect, find, and then find a fix that goes forward. The other piece that we're looking at are what we call quality control OSAs. Part of that is a systemic look, and truly it's a systemic review of what's going on in those three areas. Now, where we're having a little bit of a challenge is that our forms are not necessarily as good as we would like them to be, and our data is a little skewed high, we think, because our forms aren't allowing us to be really candid and really capture the things that are going on in our system. So if any of you are involved in that process, our ask of you with that piece of this is to be as candid as you can and really be open to identifying any risks that are in the system so that we can continue to work together to fix them collaboratively. That's an overview of last summer's piece. Steve, do you want to add anything to that?
Just that I think the important piece now, while we've focused on those three things, we now need to kind of make sure that what we did had some impact on the outcome in some of these events. So continued monitoring, making sure that, and that's done through QC OSAs and just pure events, what's happening in the system. And I mean, it's very important to make sure that we make sure, like I said, what we put in place is actually taken hold. So education was the first part of that with the webinars, and the continued monitoring and making sure that what happened or what was implemented is fixed. So with that, we'll move on to what we're going to do in the future, and I'll let Joseph, do you want to take it?
I just wanted to have an introduction to this and then turn it over to somebody else. I get a lot of questions as, is this a flavor of the day? I mean, is this something we just do in 1 year or 2 years? And what I want to say is, no, we're developing a new safety blueprint. This is the way we do business, right? We have voluntary safety programs, we have recurrent training, we have safety discussions, and we have initiatives that are all focused on the same thing. So these programs will never be over. This is just the way we do business today. It's how we express our commitment to safety, and these programs help us make sure that we're all lined up to get there. So.
That's because safety's in our DNA.
Yeah,
That's
safety's
correct.
in our DNA. Exactly.
So Joseph makes a great point, and to re-energize or actually start using the QC and the QA processes that were implemented in 2012, we did choose those three items to do that. And we've said it already, but I think it's important to reiterate a little bit that the processes weren't necessarily being used, right? So in order to get the facilities to use them and understand them, we had to create, not that these are three topics that aren't important, there was plenty of data out there that supported the fact that we needed to focus on them because there were accidents, there were many close calls in all three of those types of events. So focusing on them to re-energize or actually start using the QA/QC processes were very important. You want to start with the 15 activities?
Yeah, so for the coming year, as both Joseph and Steve alluded to, safety is in our DNA. We use the word initiative just as an umbrella, but sometimes people take an offense or they look at an initiative as this is the flavor of the day. So I'd like to reiterate, it's not. We're going to continue talking about safety forever. Again, we have the safest system in the world, but risk continues to exist. So we have to address the risk piece of it, and they two go together, but really what we're asking you to do is partner, collaborate, identify, collect information, and then work together to fix the risk. It's all over the place, it's different at each facility. With that in mind, we're trying to give tools to those who support you from a staff perspective, additional training on quality control. Joseph has put together a course at the Academy for Quality Control, has also funded that course. So throughout the rest of this year, as we get new quality control specialists and managers working on those on your behalf to help work those processes, there will be additional training that has not existed in the past. So that should really help level set us on what we are trying to accomplish, continue to gather data across the system so that we can identify systemic risks as we need to and reduce them. We're going to continue to come up with additional safety tools for the local safety councils. I mentioned a couple of them. We're also going to continue to support Partnership for Safety. We recently rolled out monthly safety awareness discussions. I know some facilities are struggling with trying to figure out how to make those happen. Resources are tight, staffing is tough, but it's part of our commitment to make sure that we have an ongoing dialogue. It takes us back to last summer's conversation. It can't just be the meeting that we had this week. It has to be a dialogue every day. When you are in the operation, please, if someone's not initiating that conversation and how you do your daily operations, do so yourself. And ask each other questions. Have conversations about how we're doing things. Make sure that you are mentoring the new people coming in. You're explaining the expertise that needed so that you can develop their experience where it needs to be, and then share your experience if you've been around for a while. It's the discussions, that ongoing dialogue inside each of our operations that is going to continue to help us identify risk and make us even safer than we are today. Recurrent training is another component of an effort to really try to have facilitated training, discussions around topics. It's okay to talk about it. We need to be candid and just really put it on the table and work together. You guys know what goes on in your facilities. The best minds are coming together to have the discussions. With that in place, we will have the best fixes as an outcome.
I wanted to add that during this conference, 7 of you have approached me about difficulties you're encountering with meeting the requirements, at least as you interpret them or the facilities interpret them, for monthly safety awareness discussions. Steve and I have been talking about that. I think there's a lot of rigidity in the way the orders are being implemented. We heard you. Steve will get together and figure out how we get more information and how to get this clarified. We believe that they're good and that they can be done properly. Folks understand the objective of what we're trying to do. So stand by for more information on that for those of you who are struggling with this point. The point of the wheel of collect, find, and fix, I mean, it doesn't do any good for headquarters to collect all that information, so we are rolling out information to the field about all the safety indicators that we have. Local safety councils already have a lot of that information. We want to make sure that managers have similar dashboards so that everybody's working off the same sheet of music. The idea is we are maturing, we are much more capable these days, and we can make better decisions than we've done in the past because we're not relying solely on our gut feeling. Don't get me wrong, gut feelings and expertise are still needed, but a little bit of data here and there is also very helpful. So we're doing the best we can, working with MITRE and other organizations to make sense of all the data you give us and then try to get that back out to where it can actually be acted upon.
So I think the point that I would like to make about the manager's safety dashboard is it scares me that now we have the LSCs, which managers can be part of. You have all this data going in where we work to make sure that they can deal with these things collaboratively. Now a manager is going to have access to some data that may drive them in a different direction. I want to make sure that we understand that it is intended to complement and not take away the role of the LSC. And that is how it is intended to roll out. It's not intended now a manager is just going to disregard an LSC or whatever group, collaborative work group you have working on it because I have all this data. The LSC still has the ATSAP reports that are shared. They still have very important tools and play a vital role in how we're going to deal with safety issues at the local level. So I just want to make sure that as this is rolled out, that if there are problems seen out in the field from FAC reps or safety reps in the facility, that you let me know so that I can take it back and talk to Kim or Joseph and make sure that we're using these tools in the right way. So
So let me
I share this
reinforce that.
concern. I just want to say that I do share this concern, and I want to be able to be helpful when issues arise. I would only add that we've gotten here in our safety programs because we've built a lot of trust with you. We need to have the same kind of trust with managers. So we're working on that. We want to move together, and you want to address problems where they arise. So if you encounter problems, please do raise them as soon as possible. Sorry, Kim.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to reiterate that the directors are briefing it exactly that. It's to continue to support exactly what's going on in the local safety councils in the facilities. We recognize clearly that the problems or the challenges and the risks are different for each facility, and the local solution is the best way to address it. We know part of why we started talking about the National Safety Initiative is very clear that headquarters solutions were not working. You know, when we talked last summer with all of you, we've had weather as an issue for years, and we have not been able to fix it. So we really are coming to you saying, please help us fix it. Fix it at your local facility level. We can't fix it from headquarters. We will never be able to fix it from headquarters. So the directors get that. This manager's tool is just an additional augmentation to help them be in the same place or have the same information that the local safety councils are. It was never intended to replace that process. Simply to help them be part of it, help them be engaged, give them a tool to look at the data and see where their risks are as well. It's the same information you're looking at, nothing different. That's the goal. That's where the directors are talking about it. That's what's being briefed to your manager. So I understand your concern, but I think we're all on the same page as far as how we're briefing it out. But truly, be part of the solution. Be part of those conversations. We're clear on the fact that you are the only ones that can fix it. So please help us do that. We're also going to continue to focus on the top 5 corrective action plan compliance pieces, and you spoke of those earlier today. But we want to really significantly reduce and eliminate hazards. Identifying top 5 is exactly what that process is about. We've looked at data. There's a national team that reviews it. They come up with the top 5 that we need to look at, and that's how that's rolled out each year. And then we also always believe in safety reporting. We're in the middle of trying to also get technical operations in place. They have a complementary program to ATSEP that you've been using for years. From an organizational perspective, they're not as mature in the use of that program. So truly, the other place where you can help from the systems perspective is to talk to your tech ops counterparts and let them know it's okay, that reporting is good, it's safe, it's a great way to get the system risk out there. They're on the very front side of it. Think about where you were several years ago when ATSEP first rolled out, some of the concerns that are out there, the fears. From a systems perspective, we need to partner with tech ops, help them grow their program just like we have grown ours, and then as we continue to grow ours, take them with us. So there's a great opportunity for us to partner together with them in effort to identify the biggest system issues. It's another thing we're talking about from an efficiency perspective on the marriage between tech ops and air traffic, and how do we identify the risks in the system from an efficiency perspective as well as from a safety perspective. So we do want to continue to promote safety reporting, focus on the FCTs and the ATSEP, help me, Region X implementation, and then the CEDAR reporting tools too, QC, OSAs, MORs, and EORs. So you're going to continue to see those 3 topics, weather, IFR, VFR conflicts, and parachute ops come out in metrics. We're rolling them out monthly. The RVPs, the facility reps, the facility managers, the terminal district managers, and the center managers are all getting that at the same time in a collaborative effort to share that information. Hopefully you have seen it at your facilities. If not, ask those questions. The initial reviews are coming back very high. The indications from the values on the metrics out of that process so far has been very high. So we're thrilled of that, proud of the work that you're doing, and just continue to want to identify the risks so that we can reduce it as much as possible.
I just wanted to highlight that ATSEP is not only the largest ASAP program in the world, it's also been very helpful in trying to drive innovation. So the partnerships that we have with airlines where we share all that we know in an identified manner through CISP is something that had never been done before. And some of the courage that members have shown in terms of when we're deploying large modifications to the system, as you know, APM, we are able to share information with the facilities or the program managers real time. It's something that's never been done before. I want to encourage you to do that, encourage you to share your reports to the local safety councils. They make a huge difference and enable people to act immediately. Great innovation, I know it's all based on trust, but we are making a huge difference.
All right, and just to add on a little bit, the promote safety reporting, it's not just implementation of the new programs, it's promotion of the ATSAP program that we already have. So making sure that we continue to educate and make people aware of the successes of ATSAP and what it does for the system will be critical to making this work. And then as Joseph talked about some of the bigger things that are coming out and how we put an umbrella over it with reporting to make sure that we understand what's going on as implementation occurs, we will continue to do that. And one of the things that we're doing now, as you can see up on the screen, is we're starting to build a dashboard to monitor where the UAS issues are, so maybe we can find those hot spots and maybe the UAS office can address some of those things as they come up. So that's just a basic overview. We just wanted to give you an update because we did so much last year and we just wanted to make sure everybody knew that it was going to continue and what those actions were. So we'll take any questions about it if you have any, or if you don't. Do you have anything else to add, Kim or Joseph?
Great conference. Glad to be here.
We have a question at the middle mic there.
Just a real quick question, reference to the top 5 and the advancements with the next-gen equipment that's coming out and the new SIDS. And it was talked about before, the I-vein arrival into Charlotte, where they have issues with that. Is that something that you guys, when you're looking at your top 5, will look at closely, or do you sort of forward that on to whoever's working with that specific sort of SIDS or those specific sort of next-gen programs?
So, I mean, when we get reports, we're certainly sharing with the office. We're sending it to usually the Article 48 rep on the project and their counterpart to make sure they understand as we're getting the reports, and then we're also taking the aggregate and looking at it from that. And just a little bit about the top 5. The top 5 initially starts from the risk analysis process, where not everything is necessarily captured, and then we complement that with ATSAP and other MORs, and we kind of build a bigger picture around what they're seeing in RAP and the leading indicators there.
If I can put this in perspective, and I get this question often, so the top 5 are not the only things that we work on or that we fix. The top 5 represent those areas that, after examining events from last year, we've determined contributed to the highest risk in the NAS. But ATSAP produces corrective action requests, 30, 40, 50 a year. Local safety councils work on them. We have different initiatives. We are a very large organization and we are constantly improving. The top 5 is we're looking at all the things that are not working so well and saying these directly contribute to the highest risk events. So we need to fix those. But clearly, as we're deploying new procedures, new processes, we are taking your information, making sure the program managers know about them, and trying to improve those as well. So please understand that the top 5 is a national focus issue, not taken away from all the other things we need to be working on.
Right, for example, we have over 120 corrective action requests out of ATSAP alone. So those things are being worked in parallel to these top 5 things. Ronnie?
Hi. It's about the recurrent training. I was one of the cadre for our facility, and it's a 4 to 4.5 hour chunk of information, and I gave feedback to the instructors. We would like to see possible broken down into like a 4-part, 5-part, to where it's designed, we get the full product, but it's designed to where we can implement it in small sections. And they said they would send it back up, but I'm hoping that one of you two guys can start working on that.
Well, they sent it back up, and I think Tom Adcock and I have talked about it, and we've certainly taken that and talked with Joseph as well, and Dave Boone over in training. There are some natural breaks now. You're
Yeah.
right, though. It might be a little bit easier if we built those in so that you could spread it out a little bit to help you
Right,
out.
because some of it is continuous, and
Right.
thanks.
It might be able to break out some of the things that are down en route, too. There's ways we can improve it, no doubt.
So several of you talked to me about recurrent training here, a lot of good ideas. This has been very useful for me, not only the ability to speak with you, but also I heard from a lot of you individually. That issue and others have been discussed. I've approached Tom Adcock. You won't see many changes in the very next module that comes out, but after that, we all agree that we're ready for the next advancement in recurrent training. You should see big changes coming.
Any more questions? Anything you wanted to add, Kim?
No, truly, let's just reinforce we have a great system. It's a great and safe system because of each and every one of you. So again, thank you for everything that you do day in and day out. And then continue to help us make it an even greater system by identifying risk, having the conversations that we need to have inside your facilities, with your peers, with your managers. That's the only way that we're going to continue to improve. Candidly identify issues that you think are right or wrong, and let's either make them better or continue to demonstrate how good we are. So thank you for everything that you bring.
All right, seeing no questions, we'll go ahead and end this, and we're going to go into the feud round. I got a couple of drawings and some things to do, but please join me in thanking Joseph and Kim.